Welcome, comic book fans, artists, writers, and creators to the fifth episode of the Panel Pod. Today we're talking with Emily Mata, the creator of Dewey's Adventures. She's not only a comic creator, but co-host of Geek Speak and vice president of Cartoonists Across America. On this episode, Emily and I discuss the history of women in comics, building a community while advocating for others, her future plans for Dewey, and her fantasy graphic novel Mira. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video, support Emily in all her endeavors with the links in the description, and thanks again as always for listening and supporting these incredible artists and their journey into the industry. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the fifth episode of the Panel Pod. I'm so excited. Today I'm here with Emily Mata, the vice president of Cartoonists Across America, and she's also the creator of Dewey's Adventures. Emily, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Noah. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Now, I'd just like to get right into it. We're talking about comic books. Tell me about Dewey.
Wow, what can I say about Dewey? Oh my goodness. Dewey's my little guy. He's been my buddy for, well, my character for now almost 2 years. I've been doing Dewey's Adventures for the Highlander newspaper for the University of California, Riverside for their newspaper. Yeah, I've been doing that strip now for almost 2 years, which blows my mind. It feels like it was just yesterday I came up with this idea for them and just like now it's taken on a whole new life.
Yeah, absolutely. Where did that idea come from? What got you into making comic strips and why Dewey?
Man, it's oddly a long story, but I'm glad we have time to for me to elaborate on that. But it sort of just started. Maybe we can take this back to just my the beginning of where I started wanting to do comics. Honestly, I originally didn't even want to be a comic artist. I wanted to be an animator, and because I just loved that art form. But that was around the time I was like 13 where I met my mentor, Phil Ye. And he's known as the godfather of the graphic novel. And that's his world. It was just comics. And it probably wasn't until maybe the end of high school, my senior year, where I started to realize that comic books was really like this almost slight transition from doing animation, but also this key way of telling stories that I had never really thought about before. So maybe like fast forward another 2 years after that. Um, I was walking down, going to class, and it gets pretty moist down here in Riverside. Rains a lot, and worms will start coming out of the ground. But the thing is that worms don't necessarily have eyes, and so they'll go to anywhere where it's moist because they assume that's dirt. And so students will just go walk on by without noticing that they're walking on top of worms. And so one morning, I ended up showing up late to class and I was walking down that same path and I just saw all these like massacred worms. And I felt so bad because my job for the past like every time that it rains, I'll scoop them up with a piece of paper and I'll kind of throw them back in the dirt because they're important to our ecosystem. And so
Hmm.
I felt really guilty about that. And I don't know, that guilt was somewhere in my subconscious where um, I asked the newspapers like, "Hey, I noticed you guys don't have comic strips. How would you feel if I pitch you maybe a comic strip?" And I spent that whole night thinking, I'm like, I don't know, what would I draw about? I feel like almost everything has been done, like a cat or a dog or I don't know, a rooster. Everything feels like it had been done already. And somehow, some way that memory kind of came back to me, and I was like, you know what? There really is no comic about a worm besides Earthworm Jim, but other than that, I've never seen any other thing about worms. And so I was like, that sounds pretty great, and I think I could work with that. And I was talking to my peer, Jevin Loop, one night, and he was like, you know what? You know what you could name him? And I was like, well, what? And he's like, you can name him Dewey after the Dewey Decimal System, since his whole world is about books and reading and education. And I was like, that's actually a really cute name. And it's funny because I thought of Malcolm in the Middle too. And I thought of Dewey.
Yes.
I was like, that sounds like adorable and it needs to be his name. And so that's kind of where that story comes from. Yeah.
That's really incredible. I'm so glad to hear that story. I didn't ever connect the Dewey and the decimal system and the whole idea of the ecosystem and you're feeling bad for these worms. That's really, really cool. I mean, I think that plays a part as well into just like that positive messaging that you have within the Dewey strip. Like, it seems like the narrative approaches you take. Tell me about that. I don't want to spoil it for the audience.
No, and when I started writing Dewey, I wasn't entirely sure what it is I wanted to say or do with this story. I knew I had it first, I had a character, but I was like, well, what do I use this character for? And with how crazy the world was, I felt like I had seen enough of the grit and the grime of comics, which is great and it's amazing as stories and they're engaging, but I felt like I needed some kind of positive reassurance. And that's kind of where I just took it with Dewey. I felt like anything he was talking about, I wanted him to feel like people were validated in their feelings. Like it's okay to feel scared. It was almost like I took the like lessons of like Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross and all these like really positive influences, and I felt sad that we didn't have these things anymore for the future generations. So I just thought, well, why not Dewey? Why not him be this bundle of hope and human perseverance? And I think that's kind of what he just overall symbolizes.
Absolutely. And I was just reading in your bio as well. It says Dewey does not represent a single person, but embodies everyone, serving as a symbol of hope and the indomitable human spirit. I want to say that's beautiful for one. And, the history of comic books, and I even wrote down here, with the grittiness that's going on with comic books, there is truly a place for Dewey, especially for educational reasons and, for the future of readers as well, educating them on how to read. That's also a part of Dewey's Adventures as well, right?
Yeah, it is. I see myself wanting to encourage so many young readers. I feel like with how things again are going in the world, I feel like again we're losing people's not only attention span but willingness to read overall. And I feel like comic books are this nice beautiful way of getting people not only like having a beautiful imagery, but the way that you're reading the book as well. And so I feel like it's just an encouragement to read overall.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Comic strips, that is definitely a different approach to take when you're starting in comics. So I want to know, what are some of the comic strips that influenced you?
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you asked me that question because I genuinely can never like shut up about it. First of all, Calvin and Hobbes all the way. As well as Peanuts, Charles Schultz.
Mhm.
As well as I was gonna also mention Moomin. Moomin's amazing comic strip as well, which turned into a cartoon, which I think is more famously known than it being an actual
I think I
comic.
didn't, yeah, I hadn't heard of a strip. I know Moon as yeah, as a series, right? It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, those were some of like my influences, like overall of like doing strips. And it was funny because it took some deep diving a little bit because I was like, okay, like, sure, Calvin and Hobbes, those are like pretty well known, but like, what else is there? Like, I feel like, well, of course, Garfield, but I don't know. I didn't find Garfield very interesting. People, I might get canceled for that.
Yeah. No, we all
Um,
have opinions.
but yeah, I don't know. It was just something like I feel like everybody gets to start, oh, let me do a full-fledged comic book, 11 by 17, comic standard. Like that's the way to do comics. But I felt like when I looked at the newspaper, they didn't have comic strips, and that felt like a dying art to me. I was like, oh my goodness, they don't have anything. They don't have, you know, their little funnies in the back. And so it was just kind of like I need to do something about that. I feel obligated as an artist to contribute to the comic strip.
No, that's really incredible. And I'm sure someone like Bill Watterson or Charles Schulz, they would be really appreciative that to know that you're living through that. So that's really incredible. So for the newspaper, The Highlander, you're working as the main cartoonist.
Yeah, so for a while I started working as the main cartoonist for about a year. But recently they ended up doing contributors. So not only is it me, but it's also any person that's willing to contribute to the comics section of the newspaper.
Very cool. Do you know how many Dewey strips that you've made? If you could think of a number.
If I can think of a number, actually I can like pull this up right now since I have my iPad on me and I have all of them on here. I'm gonna like roughly say maybe like over maybe 20. Yeah, like about over 20.
Oh wow, that's really excellent. And the process. Tell me about your process when you're making Dewey. Do you write everything first, or you kind of just draw Dewey and kind of put him in these random situations?
So it's funny that you asked because like I actually really do like have this on here. Like you can see my
Oh yeah.
Procreate open. But honestly, I think about the theme of the week. Like what's going on this month? Is there something that just happened on the news recently? Is a lot of people concerned or what are people mostly talking about? Or sometimes it's stuff that I've gone through or have done throughout the week. Like this one strip I did where like Dewey went to the zoo. But that was only because I went to the zoo and I was like, oh my goodness, Dewey is here with me. And we're like admiring all these amazing animals that here are here in the San Diego Zoo, and that's amazing. Or recently I did a strip about Jackie Orms, who is the first African American woman to do comics. So she's the first to be published in the comic scene. And
Okay, yeah,
so
that's awesome.
I ended up doing a strip about her because I was doing, well, I'm currently still doing a research project about women in comics for the university. And so that kind of like triggered it in my mind. I'm like, oh my goodness. And also it was Black History Month. And I was like, that's perfect. That works. I can totally do a strip about this. I'm more knowledgeable about it. Because I honestly, when I tell people and they ask me like, well, how do you write this? And I'm like, write what you know. Don't try to put yourself into somebody else's shoes when, you can write something that is totally wrong or create some kind of stereotype or something that you just assume about that about somebody or about something or event. I feel like comics are more um like you can feel more attached to something when you personally have gone through it. And so that's why I felt like, okay, now I'm more knowledgeable about this person, and I feel like I can write about this person because I know more than I probably did before I did this research. And so I'm like, okay, I feel awesome to write about it because I'm like, that's exactly what where my headspace is. And so yeah.
That's amazing. That sparked a couple of extra questions in my brain. Okay, I want to talk about the woman of comics, and talk about some of your favorites, but also to your point about researching and knowing what you're writing about. That's really something that the history of comics did not understand. There was a lot of people that were writing black characters that did not understand the culture of black people or Hispanic people or people that were gay. So it's really cool that we're in this time frame where we can take our time to learn about these things, especially if we're interested in them, but also a time where people who didn't have a voice are now advocated for, and it's a lot easier for them to speak out. And I know that you're also an advocate for cartoonists as well. So, I mean, we could talk about that all day.
Yeah, like where do I start about this research and advocating and
Yeah.
it's a whole that's a it's a loaded amazing question because exactly we do live in this time where we can access so many information. Like I feel honored that while writing this research project, I'm so well versed and connected with women in the indie scene that it's like, oh, well, I know this person, and then they've done a whole amazing number of things. And that's where it kind of like it started back again almost 2 years ago when I ended up going to San Diego Comic Fest, where the honored guest was Jill Thompson, who I know you did
Oh my gosh,
a video
yeah, I
on
love
them.
Jill.
I love her and I adored her, and she is amazing. She's an amazing artist and has so many things underneath her belt. And I was there. about to talk to her. And what surprised me was that she didn't have this humongous line waiting for her, as you would see, male artists do. And I kind of talked to her about that. I'm like, hey, like, what is tripping me up here? What, like, I cannot understand is that, like, where's your massive line? I thought I'd be waiting an hour to see you, but
Mm,
here I am just talking to you. And, and she kind of like looked at me and really didn't have much to say back to that.
mm.
And that's what sparked something in me that I was like, man, when we talk about inequality or things like that, and it just seems like, oh, yeah, that exists somewhere in a book. It's like, no, this is real. This is a real thing that happens socially. And
Abs-
so that's what,
yeah.
yeah, it kicked off in my brain. And that's where, like, now I'm like, I need to write about this. I need to talk to other women and learn about their experience in this as somebody who has just joined the comic scene not even like 3 years ago. And so it's exploring this bigger thing that's sort of going on and understanding how far does this history go, and
Mm.
where do we go from here? Where do we go as to, because I wrote about it, my project was that um in the early 2010s it seemed like there's this blossoming community and women are now, they're joined together and we're a community, and we have this going on and this person is in this position and she's the head of like DC Comics and she's the editor and this and this and that. And then I'm watching this now, I'm like, man, it feels like a time that I missed.
Mm,
I missed this prime of comics. Like, where are all these women now
mm.
when it feels like I don't see them? I don't see these groups of women. Like, where is this? And what do we do with that? Where do I go with that as somebody who is a female in comics?
Yeah, and I mean, it stems from the beginning. Like a lot of people don't know, and I'm sure you're researching the history of women in comics, so you probably have run across names like Marie Severin. Like she was the showrunner at Marvel, like second in command, but she was like running the floor. Like she was coloring pages, she was editing pages, she was doing the layouts, and not just like one book, like everybody's books. So like the impact and the power of women in comics has just been so monumental. And I could probably name a bunch of artists that are doing a lot of cover work right now. Like Mirka Andolfo is doing amazing work. But you're absolutely right. Like they're not all like in a group together or like, hey, we're all gonna like push each other forward. So it is harder for them, to break into the industry. And a lot of times people don't even know that they're women either, too. So there's that as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that it just I didn't realize that this spanned much longer than before I was even a thought, It's something that's like, whoa, like this is much bigger than I am, but where do I, as an artist, as a writer, as a, comic person overall, where do I go?
Hmm.
How do I fit in this bigger story of comics?
Do you have any favorite women comic artists or writers? Any that you could tell us about that have maybe inspired you a little bit? I know we talked about Jill Thompson, excellent watercolor artist as well too.
Yeah, I think she was like my first really, like, I grew up with her work, of course, Scary Godmother.
Mm-hmm.
That was exactly what I told her. I was like, you really did make my childhood. You really did encourage the sense of like wanting to do these things and be a part of that. Mary Blair, I believe that's her name. She worked for the Walt Disney Company,
Hmm.
but she did art for them and inspired so many Disney movies. That's when I was back in wanting to do animation. She was a big artist, and behind the scenes, if you knew, you knew.
Hmm.
Um, Maria Wolf. I recently got to talk to her, and I enjoyed conversating with her because she's out there doing it, and it's amazing. She has this amazing artwork and skill. And again, I brought that up to her, and I'm like, well, how do you do it? How do you feel like you fit in this bigger narrative of everything? Because she's the only, in my mind, only Mexican female artist that works for the big two. And it's like, that's inspiring to me because I'm a Mexican female as well. And so
Mhm.
it's like, man, it's just seeing somebody, and that's why they say like representation does matter because it encourages so many people to be like, I can do that too. And so yeah, they are just some of my biggest inspirations, like as well as like indie people as well. We have Purple Top Hat, Celine. She's a good friend of mine. I love her artwork, as well as It's a Little Awesome. Christine Knox, she's an amazing artist too. It's people that I can say I can call my friends that inspire me as artists as well.
Incredible. Would you say that, this whole thing that we've been talking about, did any of this fall in line with your graphic novel with Mira? Did you pull any of that type of advocacy and, strength and overcoming, kind of just the past of what was?
Yeah, so Mira, in a interesting way. So those who do know, it's sort of like an autobiography kind of storytelling. It's my life in a dark fantasy lens, and I've always believed that dark fantasy or fantasy overall is a beautiful lens um to really understand topics that can be scary to, face in the reality. But when I wrote Mirror, and I'm still currently working on it, even now it's still things I'm like thinking like, oh my goodness, I could totally add that for this character or do this or this and that. But of course, her story really is about overcoming and seeing yourself as more than what the world has told you to be. That's exactly how I felt growing up, was that like being an artist was totally off the table. It was like you had to do something respectable. You had to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor. Those were technically jobs. Anything creative, it seemed like it was a waste of time or that it could never make you any money, the quote unquote starving artist. But I see people every day making a living out of it. Everything we do is art. Everything that we interact with is art. And it's one of those things where it's like I felt like I was put into a box of this is who you have to be. And I felt, this huge turmoil inside, feeling like I could never be my true self. And that's exactly what Mira as a character goes through, as being told that she's one thing, but maybe finding out that she's not exactly what everybody says that she is.
Yeah, that's really incredible, Emily, talking about Mira. Do you have any future plans for the graphic novel? And tell me a little bit about the characters too, individually. I know that they're based on you, but you have two separate characters, right?
Yeah, so okay. So backtracking to the story and kind of where I'm going with it. It's about a 52-ish page graphic novel. I didn't think I'd take it that far. I thought it was like, oh, it's gonna be like a quick little comic book, but I was like, no, I have so much more story to tell with this. And I find it so like fun writing it that even like the characters that when I was first writing about it, I really had thought, I'm like, well, where do I take these characters? I've always had these characters. Mira has been a story I've been working on almost my entire life. I've always had this sort of character with me. And it took me, I don't know, over 10 years to figure out what even her name was. I had names for almost everybody else, but I didn't have a name for Mira just yet. Like I had a name for our villain, like I had a name for her counterpart, Galilea. So that's the other character, also our other heroine
Great name
that is also,
choice, by the way. I love that.
and as well as her sister Venus. So Galilea has a little sister named Venus. Um, and their father as well, the king of Atlantica, which is as far as I can tell, because I don't want to spoil too much of this book, but yeah, like it's kind of like there's little hints and things thrown in there of like if you know, you know. If you're from the Inland Empire, if you're from this area, you might get understand the little things I throw in there. But yeah, like when I was writing Galilea's character, I was like, okay, well, she's gonna be companioning Mira on this journey, but like, what's her character? What's her deal? What is she gonna get out of this like long journey? What keeps her up at night? Like, it's too much. It's so much to the point that like I understand these characters of like their likes and dislikes and does one need the light fully turned off to go to bed? Does the other one love to listen to loud music? Like I've so much embodied these characters in my mind that I'm like I know them like the back of my hand and kind of what they would do in certain scenarios. I can tell you how long I've been working on this and how much I enjoy writing these characters. But yeah, that's a little bit of what I can share about this. I'm really excited to share this story with people. People have heard a lot about it, and I haven't been able to fully finish it. Um, at first I thought I was gonna fully color it myself, but I ended up getting Jevin to be my colorist. So that's been really awesome to finally see these inked pages finally come to life with color.
Mhm.
And so that's been really amazing to see this slowly but amazingly come to life.
No, that's really incredible. So there's a big future for Mira. I want to know what's the biggest difference? I don't want to say challenge. What's the biggest difference between making a comic strip versus going into a graphic novel now that you've taken that step?
I would say when it comes to doing a graphic novel, is that you have so much more space than a comic strip. With a comic strip, you have about less than 6 panels. You have about 5 panels to work with. It's all, and depends if you maybe merge two strips together, which is even less panels to work with. Um, which a lot of people say that's their biggest challenge when it comes to doing comic strips. But I felt like when I was doing Dewey, I was like, man, I feel like I've already mastered this. Like I'm doing really great. I know I understand how to work with just a little bit of space, but now how do you work with even more space? And that's what I was like thinking. I'm like, I really want to show people what I can do. I really want to show people that I'm not just like a cutesy little artist that just does like little Dewey, but also somebody who can do something that's serious and, much grander in that way. Not that Dewey isn't grand. I love him and I love doing what I do with that character, but I think Mira is almost like the opposite in contrast of Dewey.
Yeah, totally. And it has a really cool fantastical element to it. Can you tell me some, I don't know, maybe some things that inspired that fantastical element? Are you into like Lord of the Rings or Narnia? What inspired that?
I'm a huge Del Toro fan, and I
Okay.
love that sort of like, and this is me putting out there, but like I hope and dream I can meet him because I hope he can do like the live action Tamira. I can so see him do that. I love the dark fantasy elements that he throws in, that it's not only is it beautiful, but it's also it can be scary.
Hmm.
And those scary things can mean things and much more than we think that it does. And so I think everything that he's done has always been, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why this monster appears the way it does. There's a reason why it comes out of the cave, out of this thing, and it does this for a reason. And that's kind of why I took that with Mira. I just love the way that like fantasy can just show things that we didn't necessarily see in the beginning when it comes to, racial discrimination or um now that I'm like getting into Star Trek, it's kind of like that. The way we take all these like elements and throw them into space and yeah, and see well, how does that work? How would
Hmm.
that appear between aliens and humans?
Yeah, I think Star Wars does kind of a good job at that as well, with having that central focus being like a single character and like everything else that happens around them. Like it's so
Yeah.
cool to see all the fantasy elements, but then remembering, that core character or characters at the end of the day and who they are as people. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
So I want to move on just a little bit because we talked about, or you mentioned Phil Ye earlier in the interview. Tell me about his mentorship towards you. The pioneer, one of the pioneers of the graphic novel. I read that on Lambic, which was really cool. So tell me about that.
Well, he's been my mentor for about over 10 years, and he's always been encouraging me to do art, even when times I felt like I myself couldn't do it. He was always there in my corner cheering me on. That was until he asked me to become vice president of Cartoonism Across America, which was sort of aligning when it was coming out when I was doing Dewey. I felt it was funny because I didn't really thought about education and literacy and doing all these things. And it wasn't until I realized that those things were really important until I made Dewey. And I think that's kind of when he took it up with me of like, hey, I feel like now you understand the point and can lead in this organization. And that was something honoring to me. I honor that. Um, I'm always pushing out about our goal when it comes to increasing literacy across America and trying to go to schools and try to encourage students to read comic books, to, at least pick up a book and read. So, yeah, his mentorship has meant I will say this, that I would not be here if it weren't for him. I wouldn't have the doors that I've walked through if it weren't for him.
That's really incredible. And I've seen you two have appeared at cons. You're very active in the community, and I want to talk a little bit more about what you do at Cartoonists Across America. How important is it, and you can share this with other artists as well, how important is it to show your face and be out there with people, just celebrating art and your own, of course?
Oh, it's really important. I didn't realize how important it was until I started going out to conventions. It really is a people job. It's a people career. You really have to be keeping tabs with everybody of like, how are you doing? How's everything going? It's one of those things, it's not just, oh, can you go sign up for my Kickstarter? I've not
Hmm.
once talking to you, but sign up for my Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It it really is about building these relationships with other people, and I find that really important. And that's why like we love showing up to cons. That's why we go out there every convention. We're showing up and we're showing our artwork because that's how we get to the people.
And Dewey comes with you too. Am I correct on that?
Oh yeah, he comes with me. Hold on. Where is he? Hold on. He's here. Hold on.
Didn't mean to catch you off guard. He's got to be around, right?
No, 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 no. He's here. He's here. He comes with me.
Oh my goodness, so cute.
I probably should have had a mic right here, like with him.
Oh, that
Like,
would have been perfect. That would have been like
but yeah,
set the tone.
he comes. He's a part. Okay, he's a part of this now. Yeah.
Yeah, keep him here. Now he's gonna stay. That's so cute. Who made that? Did you make that?
No, so Kevin Tran, the other artist that you had here, so
Yeah,
he has a
Kevin.
younger sister, who does crocheting. And so Jevin ended up commissioning her to do this Dewey plush, and I take him everywhere with me.
What a crossover. I love that. He is super cute. That is the greatest thing ever. I need one ASAP.
I
Um,
know, I'm trying to get some Dewey plushes out there. I would love for people to have their own little Dewey to take with them on their own adventures.
so you're also doing podcasting. That's really awesome. I added this in last minute. Geek Speak. Tell me about how that's going.
So that's going amazing. I did not expect to be a part of a podcast. That was never on my to-do list as an artist. It just sort of happened. They ended up having me on for an interview, and they were like, "Hey, we like your style. You want to come be a part of our group or our podcast?" And I thought about it. I'm like, "Well, why not? Why not open another avenue of doing or connecting with people?" Like I love talking to people and I love doing panel work. I'm always going doing panels, and that's always so much fun. And yeah, that was like a a what is it? I'm like forgetting the word right now. It starts with an S. Spontaneous. I don't know. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
serendipitous. There we go. It's very serendipitous.
Serendipitous, okay. Very cool. I also want to know future of Dewey. You're working on more Dewey strips? Is that what's happening right now?
Yeah, currently it's just strips, but I do plan on making like his own whole comic book adventure. So it's
Oh
not
my
just like
goodness.
the collection of strips, like how I did with Dewey's Adventures, the strips. It's gonna be like a full-fledged adventure where it's like the whole comic book is like an actual adventure, not just like just strips. And so it's gonna be kind of fun, but also fingers crossed planning a crossover between Nuke Rooster and Dewey's Adventures.
That would be
So it'd be
very cool to
kind of fun
see.
doing something in space and, something that's unlike where where no worm has gone before, and let's just say that.
I love that. That's really cool. Can show us a little bit of your strips here because I don't have any with me
Yeah.
here. Where can we get this book? Show us.
So you can get this up in my link in bio in my Instagram or on my Ko-fi where you can find me at enderlady underscore O 04. So that's ENDERLD or LADY underscore O 04. But
Nice.
yeah, it's like a collection of them.
I love this one here in the middle with the like detailed face. That is
That
hilarious.
up.
Finally.
Yeah, because it gets hot in Riverside, and I ended up having to do a hike between my classes, which was like, mind you, like almost 90-degree heat. You already know the kind of weather.
Yeah,
You
yeah. I'm
you
in
have it worse
Florida.
than we do. You have it worse than we do. I'm like complaining about 90-degree weather. It's just the sun shining, but it's like for you, it's like
It's the humidity as
raining
well.
and
Yeah.
humidity and yeah,
That's
and then
really
we had
cool.
Dewey going to the zoo, all the little animals that we saw, like hippos, and they actually have like the world's loudest bird there as well.
How
And
interesting.
we enjoy that little guy.
That's so cute. You got Elvis. And one thing that's really cool about Dewey is like he could take, like we mentioned, the embodiment of everyone and everything, but he could take the image of
Yeah.
Wolverine or like Batman if he wanted to. He could be anybody or anyone. What's some, let's just say, if you could see Dewey as a character or a character that you haven't drawn him as, but I also want to ask as well, outside of Dewey, what would you like to write in comic books? Like a character you would really like to write or a character that you'd like to draw? I want to hear about that. And we'll touch back on Dewey too.
Um, I'm gonna go to the comic book one because somebody ended up asking me that recently, and it was funny because I was like, wait, I need a minute. I was like, why do I need a minute? It's Wonder Woman.
Mm.
I think every woman that has like made it in the comic industry has written their own written and drawn their Wonder Woman. Like Trina Robbins was an artist for Wonder Woman. Jill Thompson, of course, wrote
She
and
did
drew
Wonder
her own
Woman. Yeah.
Wonder Woman comic. And so I'm like, that's how I know I made it, is that they'll ask me for me to do a Wonder Woman comic. And so that would be amazing. I would so love that.
And kind of want to go back on Dewey. I know I was jumping around a little bit. You had this
No, you're good.
piece, and I wish I had it so I could show it, where you did, I believe it was Marvel and DC, or was it just DC characters?
Oh, it was like a big, like elaborate.
Yeah.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about. I could pull that up on my phone right now.
That one's my favorite, by the way, of your pieces. And I also like the one with the newt as well. I believe it's a newt, like the type of amphibian,
Oh,
and
oh,
it's
the
like
axolotl.
Axolotl. Thank you. I'm someone probably
Yeah.
hates me right now for calling it a newt.
Yeah. So let me like, okay, here on my Instagram, but it's like, here's Dewey, but he's like
I
so many
love that
things.
piece. Yes. So it was Marvel, DC, Star Wars, like everything kind of.
It was just everything. Any character that I personally, it was for the Dewey's Adventures of Strips Kickstarter.
Hmm.
And we wanted to do an art piece, me and Jevin, to, commemorate and thank everybody who supported. And so we're like, let's just do a piece where anybody can like ask for whoever supported can ask for a character. So we were like Green Lantern Dewey, and he's actually like wearing the little ring, and it's so cute.
Is it like
Like,
floating or is it?
no, he's like actually wearing it.
Oh,
Like
he's
he's
like wearing. That's so cute. That's really creative too.
we have that, or like it was funny because it was before the Superman movie came out. But I was like, man, Dewey was already on it. He was
And I
Superman
love the
already.
haircut too. It's perfect. Yeah. He just
I
fits
was
into
like,
that mold. If you, so we talked about in the beginning of your career, you're interested in animation, okay?
yeah.
When or if you wanted Dewey to be animated, but I
Oh,
like to say when because we want to speak that into existence. Who would voice Dewey?
oh my goodness. That's so amazing you asked that because like I put it out there and I'm gonna put it out there again that Dewey will be animated. I just have a feeling like somebody will want to animate Dewey. But it's funny because I've never thought about a voice for Dewey. Like in my head, he just is voice. Like
Mm.
I don't think of a like, oh, I think of I don't know, like Pedro Pascal or I think I don't know, some other actor. Um,
Yeah.
he just it's just words. Like I just hear it in my head. Um, I don't know. It's kind of like Snoopy, you know? Like he doesn't necessarily have a voice.
Yeah,
He
just
just sort
his
of is.
being. Yeah.
He just sort of is. Like when you read Snoopy, it's like you don't imagine somebody's voice, you just read it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like how I feel with Dewey, but I feel like there will be a special someone for Dewey. But it's funny because I had thought about who will do the theme song for Dewey.
Mm.
And so like it's funny. I already have a little bit written it down of like what the theme song might be. Somebody can probably I'll probably change my mind, who knows. But um my first pick, but rest in peace, Steve Carwell, but Smash Mouth.
Mm.
For Smash Mouth to do um Dewey's Adventure, like the theme song. Because I could so hear like his voice singing like Dewey's little theme song.
So you want like a rock kind of like
Kind of like a rock. Yeah, or yeah, something fun like that, or Bare Naked Ladies. I
okay.
really can hear them do they've done Big Bang Theory, like their theme song. So I don't know, I know they can work with something fun, and that's kind of like what I want to like, one of those two. I've thought about that. Or they could be giants. Them too. I've thought about them. They have their song Dr. Worm. So
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
I've
Really
I've thought
awesome.
about this. This is like out there in my head, and I
Well, I'm
hope.
I'm so glad I brought it up. Yeah, because Dewey would fit so well into that animation sphere. So I want to know. I normally ask the artists their favorite movies, but since animation Dewey's cartoon, what are some of your favorite cartoons?
Oh my goodness. This is like on the spot because I'm like, I have so many. Okay. So favorite, like I'm thinking like animated films. I'm gonna go with like, of course, Corpse Bride.
Hmm.
Uh, Tim Burton, love that movie. Hunchback of Notre Dame. I adore that movie. Ratatouille, all the way. That's like one of my number one. If anybody anywhere has like a passion for something, like Ratatouille is your movie. Um, that TV show. I'm like thinking like TV shows and the movies, and then like I'm thinking of like
Yeah, there's so many.
like um Spider-Verse. That was a big thing for me. Like the first one, that was like a huge shift in animation that like almost never before seen or done in a 3D to 2D way, and that
Yeah.
was like mind-blowing. Um Yeah, I'm trying to think of other. I'm gonna kick myself later. I'm like, oh, why didn't I
I
think of
should have
that other
brought that
movie? Like
cartoon
that was
up.
like
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies. Why didn't I think of that? Um, yeah, I'm like trying to think. Oh, Spectacular Spider-Man. I love that show as well. Like the animation isn't like mind-blowing, but I love that cartoon so
It
much.
just works really, really well, that style.
Yeah, it does. I'm like, oh, what else? What else? I'm
That's
like
really
looking around
cool.
at other things.
Well, then we can move on to the next one, music. Do you listen to music while you're creating?
Oh yeah, music I think is like a huge element overall in my life. I listen to music all the time. Like I cannot not listen to music. Um, of course, like everybody who knows me really well knows that I'm the biggest Beach Boy fan. Like if the Beach Boys don't have a fan, then I'm dead. Like that's that's how big of a fan I am.
Wow,
And
that's
so
incredible. And rest in peace. I believe it was one of the singers that just recently passed away.
yeah, Brian Wilson, he
Brian
was like
Wilson. Thank you for that. Yeah.
yeah, the main big writer, and that was like a huge blow to me because I ended up doing a painting of him
Oh,
about 4 years ago, and just to come, just not because he passed away or anything, but it's just because of how much of a musical influence his music is, and overall like the Beach Boys' sound
hmm.
that really carried me creatively. And so just to like commemorate him as an artist, as a writer, yeah, I just did a painting of him, and crazy enough, like 2 months after that, I was able to see the Beach Boys
Oh, no
live. It was
way.
just two of them, but it wasn't Brian, but it was like two other members of the Beach Boys, and they ended up signing it for me.
That's
And that
really
was like
cool.
amazing. I was like, I got to meet the Beach Boys. Like how, like how amazing is that?
No, that's really incredible. Well, Emily, I want to thank you so much for joining the podcast and also just congratulate you on all the amazing things you're doing advocating for other artists. Tell us again, I know you mentioned earlier, how can we find you? How can we support you? Yeah,
Yeah, you can find me on almost every platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even Pinterest, all under the same name, Enderlady_04. So it's ENDERLADY_04.
and you're going to be appearing at any cons anytime soon in the future?
Yes, I will. So I'll be appearing later this month at WarnerCon in Anaheim, later in the year at San Diego Comic-Con. So I'll be there for the whole weekend. So yeah, I think
Incredible.
that's and Comic-Con Revolution for those who live here in the Inland Empire in Ontario as well.
Incredible. Well, Emily, congrats again for all that you're doing, the amazing work that you're doing for comic books. Thank you so much for joining the panel pod. I'm going to link everything that you need to support Emily in the description. Thanks again for joining us, Emily.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on here.